Alright guys, it's Shish Barber 1 coming right back at you with an all-new Boom Beach video for Warships, Season 40. It's here, and here is the tech tree. We're going to use this one that was cobbled together by BBTFRG. I think it's got enough information on this for us to dive right into it. So I'm assuming you guys have probably already seen a little bit of this by now, but we'll go through it as if you hadn't. The purpose of this video is to kind of illustrate 3 different viable paths that I think different players can take for different reasons. And we'll just get into it. We'll get into the first path, the one that's most viable, the one that most people will probably want to default to, which we'll call the base riding instant training path. If you can reload all your troops, and you just want a safe path to go this season, you probably want a base ride. Now, if you didn't see my last video, you should probably check it out about the Great Firewall of China. It's very important to realize this. It's definitely true. Like I've had some other commenters confirm it as well that are Chinese. They're gone, ladies and gentlemen. At least the overwhelming majority of Chinese players will not be here because, you know, that's just the way China likes to run their country, unfortunately. That's going to have some pretty big implications in warships. Queue times are going to suffer. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully we don't hit that critical mass to where people just don't even want to, you know, spend the time to wait for a match and then things just run down, you know, hill from there. I hope that's not the case. I hope at least at the I don't know, global 500 range and up to a global 1000, I would expect queue times are still going to be pretty good. But once you start getting above global 500, it's probably going to drop off very quickly. So anyway, with that being said, though, it would behoove you, if you have never had top 500 or even top 50, this would be a really good season to go for it. So it might behoove you to get instant training and, you know, shoot for the stars, so to speak. Now, if you do that, I don't have a code, of course, so I would recommend using like code chicken or code skull crusher, something like that, if you do decide to purchase instant training. Anyway, so let's talk about the instant training path that I think is most viable. Now, a lot of this is obvious. You guys might already know it, but here we go. So notice we start off with Grens and shock bombs. Thank goodness we have some shock bombs and machine guns. Well, so we want a base ride, right? So the thing is, we know we want to have mines. We also know that we want to come over and pick up the cannons. Let's get on to this picker. Now, the cannons are going to be a very important defense early on, but not as important as sniper towers. So you're going to want to get all this. Mines, boom mines, sniper towers. I would definitely max the sniper towers first. Make sure, you got to do your own calculations, but make sure that you will have spent enough tokens to gain 300 tech so that you can then, of course, unlock the 30R. I would not go down to pick up the Shockeneers and shock mines at this point. The shock mines are nice, but I don't think they're worth picking it up to grab the Shockeneers. I kind of think the Shockeneers are a bit of a vacuum node, so I would tend to avoid this, at least early on, because there's better stuff ahead, right? So get to 3 ER, get out of 2 ER, and then, lo and behold, we pick up Sparky. Sparky's going to be your bread and butter hero for probably a large part of this season. As you've already probably noticed in the tree, DBD doesn't come till much later. In fact, it's somewhere like right over here in, well, I should have numbered the ERs, 3, 4, after the fifth ER, 5th and 6th ERs when we get our full loading or full complement of DBD. So the point is we're probably not going to need Kavan. You know, here's Kavan over here, guys, after the 4th ER. He's going to be your go-to hero, but probably don't even need him until at least 5 ER. Just a hunch, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, we pick up Sparky. Now, at this point, you basically got 2 choices. Well, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, you're going to want to go up to get your building health. Like, everyone knows building health is where it's at. Now, again, looking at 2 choices, we've got the critters, and of course behind the critters you've got some kind of a multi-node with mines in it. Who cares about mine multi-nodes? But critters are going to be nice, but then again, we have Sparky already, so I don't think we really need them, all right? In fact, probably with Sparky, I'll anticipate players will probably want to be using Critter Swarm as their primary ability for her. And that's going to be because it'll just help to take out some of those front-loaded mines that we're expecting to see on these bases. Because there will be no med kits, at least not for a while. There's no mitigation, and there's no flares. Yeah, guys, there's no freaking flares till, where the heck did they go? Probably looking right at them, just don't see. Oh, here we go. right on the end of my screen. So after 4 ER, we can finally pick up flares. But before that, we're just going to have to let the troops go where they may. So there's a big reason why you might want to have critters, but then again, if they're all kind of following around by Sparky, she can just poop some critters with Critter Swarm. That's why I think Critter Swarm is going to be probably the go-to ability on Spark. Anyway, so we've got our building health. We're going to say pass on the critters for now because, hey, what's in the other direction, ladies and gentlemen? We have the Bombardiers, of course. So we'll pick up the Bombardiers. Now we're going to be in a much better shape using Bombardiers, Sparky, maybe 1 or 2 boats of Grens. It just depends. Like, it might be a good idea to have Grens as a bit of a meat shield. They do have more health than Bombardiers. They do stand like a tile or so closer than Bombardiers, so they're more susceptible to getting hit by stuff. But the most important thing is that their grenades can also kill mines. However, it's a bit counterproductive with Sparky because they will kill the critters as well. It's just a matter of finding the right balance for that. Because again, we don't have a meat shield yet, but we are on our way to a meat shield, ladies and gentlemen. It won't be very long until we get that. We're looking at the mech, the new and improved mech. So let's just go ahead and path up to that. Go over here, up here, boom, we got the mech. So along the way, you'll go past the multi-node with 2 sniper towers, 2 machine guns, or 2 cannons. At this point, I'd probably be inclined to pick up the sniper towers. I think they're going to be your most deadly option early on. And then you probably want to go switch it for the cannons later once people start bringing out mechs to play. Or if you're just going to be cheap about your diamond swaps, just go ahead and get the cannons because I think the cannons are the more solid choice. But initially, you'll probably find a little bit more utility with the sniper towers on the first pickup of that multi-node. Multi-node number 2, as they've numbered it here. Now, we'll pass by the rocket launchers. Rocket launchers are going to be good, but I mean, not great, again, because of that late DBD. So they're just going to be a slow, agonizing pain. But there are no med kits yet. So that damage is cumulative. It will add up if you're able to launch those into the back line or to the squishy troops of your opponent. So they're definitely worth picking up. And you do want to, try to budget your tokens accordingly to keep investing into them, but I wouldn't go gung-ho right away. Now, I know we're trying to base ride, but there's still just some more important stuff around the corner. And, well, of course, this is the mechs. Now, mechs, we need to mention this before we move forward. I don't know if it's a good idea to max your mechs for a couple of reasons. One, traditionally speaking, it never was a good idea to max your mechs, even if you were planning to use your mechs, because they already come with a lot of health and damage, and as I recall, incrementally, you didn't really get much more by investing in them, by upgrading them. It just wasn't worth it, okay? And now, the one thing I don't know is if this will affect their shock time, because now they actually shock the buildings. So will mechs be able to shock longer as you upgrade them? I don't know. If the answer is yes, then, which it probably is, then they might be worth upgrading. However, there's still another caveat to this. I don't see mechs as being kind of like viable too long. I think once we get over here to heavies, I think mechs are out of the picture. And there's something very important to keep in mind about mechs, okay? Especially if you're considering using Kavan. Kavan will not res a mech, okay? He does res heavies. So for these reasons, I would caution against investing into the mech. The only real reason why you might want to is to help extend their ability to shock the buildings that they're attacking, because that is nice, okay? It will help keep them alive. It'll also help keep some of Sparky's critters alive, too, because, Sparky's going to be back there. You're going to be doing Sparky, mech, and Bombardier at this point. Once you have the mechs, I don't see any need, really, to be running the Grens. They'll probably just get in the way. Anyway, so we've talked about the mechs and kind of where we need to play with those. They're going to be strong though. These are not a vacuum node. We are going to be thankful that they are there. Okay. So then we come down, boom, get the shock launcher. Yeah, this you're going to want to have rank 4 right away. I mean, this 2 shock launchers is always better than 1. It might be a bit too premature to go for rank 5, but rank 5 is always good because I believe it gives a 0.3 second upgrade to the shock duration, which really helps to chain shock your opponents if you got them laid out in such a way that it'll enable that. So people always kind of undervalue that rank 5 shock launcher upgrade. So just keep in mind that extra 0.3 seconds can really go a long way if you're trying to chain shock your opponents. But that being said, early on, it's usually not the best idea. We usually still have more things to spend tokens on. Like The troop health. Probably want to backtrack for the troop health. Now, I know this isn't exactly base riding by picking up troop health, but it's just going to be nice quality of life stuff. It's going to help make sure that Sparky stays alive. It's going to really benefit your mechs because they scale quite well with HP, so they're just going to be super beefy and buff at that point, and you'll have some really fat mechs making their way across the warship's decks. So I think you're going to want to go ahead and backfill for the troop health. Anyway, after we do that, we're going to come right down here to the first multi-node that matters, okay? And I guess they're calling it Proto 1. And we've got three options here. We've got a Microwaver 1, a SEMO 1, or a Boom Surprise 1. Now, as you know, we've got the upgraded Shish Kebabber Boom Surprise, because that was my idea, hashtag you know it. But yeah, I'm glad it's in the game. Just want to make sure, give credit where credit is due. It's going to be really nice when there's air, but there's no air yet, okay? So I'm glad they put it in a multi-node with these choices because it's not going to be overpowered or overshadowed by stronger choices, like in other words, like a shock blaster or a doom cannon. So this will keep it viable later into the game, and we'll probably want to do a multi-node switch here. Initially, out of the gate, we're looking at SEMO 1. SEMO 1 is probably your go-to. Now you're thinking, well, Shish, why do you want SEMO? Because Sparky has critters everywhere. Yeah, she does. Well, she's going to have those critters regardless. So at least SEMO can help take out some of those critters, and maybe you'll get more shots off against the mechs. The problem is there's no boom cannons yet, okay? But they're coming. Boom cannons are over here, okay? They are coming. But those mechs are going to be really tough to kill. If you're really lucky, you'll have all the critters dead, and they'll be in range. The SEMO will be in range of the bombardiers. Maybe you'll pick one off. I doubt it. But of these choices, I think this is probably your best. The SEMO has decent range, okay? Because you could make the same critter argument for a Microwaver, but the Microwaver has pretty bad range. And, I mean, a Bombardier could just take the Microwaver on by itself and never have a problem. So SEMO's range gives him the edge here. And, I mean, overall, they're really not that great. But I would just pick SEMO to start. And then later, when rocket choppers come online, and if they're giving you problems, definitely you'd want to probably try out the new Boom Surprise. You just want to try it out anyway, right? See how it targets the air. Hopefully it works properly. So we talked about Proto Node 1. Well, let's just go ahead and beeline our way up to 4ER because it's pretty much a no-brainer at this point. We'll pick up our first GBE node, which will be nice. You'll want to dump probably at least ranked up to rank 3 upgrade. Probably want to upgrade that at least twice. Rank 4 and 5 tends to get a bit expensive, and there's more GBE coming later, so you don't have to go gung-ho crazy on your GBE. Plus, I don't see a lot of things we'd be spending GBE on right now. We have shock bombs, and we have Sparky. That's it, I believe, right? Yeah, so I just don't see a lot of need for the GBE. Now, you could argue that it does cost GBE to drop the troops, which, initially we might be a little bit shy on the GBE. We might be a little bit tight, but I doubt it. I don't think we'll have too many GBE issues, at least not for many players. So I wouldn't invest too heavily in this. Of course, we got the mortars along the way. Go ahead and max those out. We are base riding after all. Yeah, then we've made our way to 4ER. Now, sorry I get kind of cut off here, so it's a little bit odd seeing all the connections, but that's just the way it is. So after 4ER, okay, we automatically go over here to the rifles, pick those bad boys up. They're going to be nice, okay? They're going to maybe want to be used over the mechs, again, because there's just not a whole lot of firepower out there. Now, if you're up against some tough rocket launchers, that could be a thing, but I doubt it. So the question is, where do you go from the riflemen? Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, by this point, we're absolutely going to want flares. Flares are pretty much a no-brainer, so we'll come down and pick up the flares, right? And then now we're looking at a few different options. Well, we could pick up Kavan, we could pick up the rocket choppers, we could pick up med kits, okay? I think the thing to do is more than likely shoot over for the med kits, so we'll draw a line here from the rifles, and then we'll go ahead and pick it up, if I can draw it, over here to reach the med kits. And the reason being is I don't think Kavan's going to be that strong early on because I just don't see a lot of troops dying, okay? And at this point, we don't even have the heavies yet, so Kavan's not going to be able to res a mech anyway. So he doesn't make any sense, really, I think, to pick up right now. Could be wrong, but this is what we see. Now the question is, where do we go from here? Because we certainly want to pick up the boom cannon and the heavies, but mainly the boom cannon more than anything, because we can still get by with the mechs. But the best way to go about this is, of course, just to come down here, and down here, and then back over here. So let's talk about everything on this part of the path. So we'll be crossing another multi-node. I kind of covered it up, but I guess it's multi-node 3, which gives us the option of 2 boom cannons, 2 machine guns, or 1 rocket launcher. Well, I think that's what MT means. Machine gun? I'm not sure, honestly. That should be MG. I don't know what's an MT. I don't know. Probably meant to be an MG. So here's the thing: we're gonna want boom cannons in that node, but but the problem is the way we've pathed over there to it, we're not gonna be able to pick boom cannons out of the gate because we don't have boom cannons. So just pick something, okay? Pick the two MTs, whatever those are, or pick the one rocket launcher. But understand we're gonna want to switch this back to boom cannons once we get the boom cannons. Okay, we're gonna pass over TD. TD is always good. You're gonna want to make sure you have the tokens to max that out. It's usually just under 900K. All the information's out there. I don't have that right now. Let's not worry about the actual numbers, okay? So, but max it out. Max out your troop damage. I mean, duh. And then here come the heavies. You're going to want to have those maxed out too. These are going to be your bread and butter for quite a while. And then, of course, by the time we finally get to the almighty heavy chopper, you're going to want to have those suckers maxed out already. So if it behooves you to do it now. Okay, so we talked about the heavies and the boom cannons. Now, boom cannons can be a bit pricey. I would say at least try to get these suckers to rank 4, but, you know, hey, rank 5 is better. They're going to hit harder, and you're going to need every ounce of damage you can muster because there is no DBD, at least not yet. So hopefully you've got the tokens to max out the boom cannons as well. So this is why also going back, talking about these rocket launchers up here, I wouldn't invest too heavily too early in them because I just think we've got better stuff to spend along the way. You've got to do some math on this and just give me the general idea, okay? Well, here we go. Now we picked up our boom cannons. Everything's hunky-dory. With this path, we're not going to talk about rocket choppers. I'm assuming this is the path for the general player, and rocket choppers take a certain level of skill and panache that not everybody has or wants to employ. This is going to be another path that we discuss, but not on this one. So that means the next thing to do is, of course, come back and go into 5ER. All right. Now from here, we notice we got brick stash down there underneath the barrage. Now, barrage is very, very tempting, okay? But it's hard to say. Honestly, at this point, it's very hard to say what you're going to want to get. I would say, though, I would be more inclined to pick up the troop damage. We've already got one building health out there, and barrage by itself won't cover it. Remember, we are base riding. So by definition, a base rider essentially has to put their remaining upgrade tokens into rocket launchers, not necessarily barrage and artillery. Barrage and artillery is more of a tech ride thing. And we certainly don't care about brick. Like, we don't want brick, right? So, therefore, we will come over and pick up the Zookas. I don't see much happening with the Zookas at all because we've already got bombardiers. That's a vacuum node for sure. Now we're at a bifurcation to where we can pick up our second troop damage node or the first DBD. Either way, we're going to want both, right? So it hardly matters which way you go, but I tend to think you'll want to pick up DBD first and then pick up troop damage, all right? And at this point, there's only one way to go, which is, of course, artillery. I don't really care which line we draw it from. We'll take it down from the DBD. It's really the same. Now we'll have artillery. Artillery, at least to rank 3, is always super cheap, okay? So I would do that so you at least have a little bit of damage, but more importantly, it's going to help you just take out some pesky little mines and junk like this along the way. We didn't talk about the med kit. Yeah, for the med kit, you probably want to have that upgraded to rank 3 to start. Rank 3 is always nice. It's always value. I wouldn't necessarily max it right away. There's probably no need to because there's no DBD out there, but a rank 3 med kit is nice. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And same thing, rank 3 artillery is nice. Again, we do want to kind of preserve our excess tokens to invest into the rocket launchers because, I mean, we do want to get those things maxed eventually here, right? Now we see that we've got, from this point, warriors. I don't see them being that viable at this point in the game. Plus, we've already skipped smoke, so smoke is up here. So we're not really set up to use them properly. Now, above the warriors is a multi-node 4 that has 2 cannons, 2 sniper towers, and 2 shock launchers. Well, shock launchers are quite nice, okay, and that is something to behold. Yeah. So we are definitely going to want that. So you can tell I haven't looked this much further into the tree. We will go pick up the warriors. We will not upgrade them, but hallelujah, we will come here and take 2 more shock launchers because, 4 shock launchers are better than 2. At this point, it really makes sense to have your shock launchers maxed because it's more health and more shocking potential. That's going to be nice. You really want to get here as a base rider. There's no doubt about it. After that, you'll probably want to go ahead and pick up your second proto. So you'll want to pick up these seekers. We won't really worry about investing in seekers. We're not looking to do any seeker play on this path. And then we'll go ahead and pick up the proto number 2, which is a Hot Pot 2, Grappler 2, or Shock Blaster 2. Um, I would say, well, you got to keep in mind we got Sparky on the deck. You probably gonna want Shock Blaster. Shock Blaster's probably the thing. If we didn't have Sparky pooping out critters everywhere, I would probably be inclined to go for the Grappler at this point. But no, we're gonna need the Shock Blaster to blast away those critters, and yeah, that'll be great. We'll just stop it right here, okay? Before 6CR, I think that's the general idea for your non-IT base riding path. All right, so hopefully that logic makes sense. This might not be exact, but that's sort of what I see when I look at it. Now let's talk about another path. Let's talk about the non-IT path. All right, let's just go ahead and delete all this junk. So with non-IT, we're going to have to take a different approach. See, we don't want to bog ourselves down with base riding, because if you take the base ride path, that means you'll fight tougher bases, because you ultimately you settle out at the same point that you're at. So base riders fight base riders, tech riders tend to fight tech riders, like when all things are said and done. So the point of the non-IT path is in fact a tech ride, because this way we can actually get our ERs, all right? So let's keep that in mind as we chart this path. And we got to figure out, well, what the heck are we tech riding to? Well, there's a few things. I mean, the first big tech ride is going to be to Bombardiers. Then the next thing we're going to probably want to have is mechs. And then after that, it really depends on how you like to play the game, but potentially the rocket choppers, okay? And another tech ride target could also be, of course, the Seekers. These are related. Rocket Chopper and Seeker, they both require smoke. Where did the smoke go? Right here. They both require the smoke. So if we're going to take any of these variants that are tech riding to these points, we definitely want to have smoke, okay? Because you're going to want that. And of course, guys, of course, the big one, heavy chopper, right? This would be the ultimate tech ride for everybody. So that's the first thing to do is identify the tech riding targets that make sense, okay? So again, a rocket chopper and a seeker is optional, depends on the player, and so smoke is kind of optional here too. But these are the basic ideas for the nodes that will be probably most impactful for a tech ride. Another thing to keep in mind for a non-IT player, it really helps to have multiple troops available. That way, if you run out of reserves on one, you can still use reserves from another. Even if it's not viable, you'll still be able to get some attacks in, okay? So it's some of the non-IT philosophy. So let's get into it. All right, so we're trying to tech ride. So it's kind of obvious. We need to just pick up boom mines, pick up sniper towers, get into 3ER. Now, in order to do this, just stick with solid lines. In order to do this, you're going to want to make sure you do your tech calculations. You want to make sure you have your 300 tech available so you can unlock the 30R. You want to max out your Grens more than likely. Well, here, not necessarily. If you can get straight over to Bombardiers, then there's probably no need to max out your Grens. So you'll want to be maxing out gunboat. You'll want to be maxing out the landing craft. Definitely max out your flamethrower and your machine gun and your shock bomb. Let's see, 75 is 150, 225. You'll get it. You'll get it. And I know that's not 75 because I'll start with 5, but just doing my own estimates, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 75, which is 375 minus 25 is 350. Yeah, just by maxing out everything but the Grens that you start with, you'll have enough tech to get over there. Plus, we're probably going to want to max the boom mines and max the sniper towers. Maybe you don't want to max all that stuff, but you can maybe take a little easy on the shock bomb. You don't need to have that maxed that early. Maybe just rank 3, something like that. Do your math, figure it out. Get rid of those dots. And either way, just make sure that you don't, surprise yourself if you don't have the 300 tech. You gotta keep that in mind. Whoopsie. Right, so now we're in 3ER. Same thing applies. We want to get over to our first tech riding stop, which is going to be the Bombardiers, which means we pick up Sparky, pick up building health, get the Bombardiers, max them out. And then after this, same idea, we want to get over to the mech. However, I think it makes sense to go a different route than before. I think we'll want to go through the smoke, through the medics, up to the troop health, over to the shock launchers, and then up to the mechs, okay? You're going to want that front line as a non-IT player. The mechs are going to be super strong for us. We'll already have the troop health to support it. All that we're basically skipping in this path is the multi-node for extra sniper towers, machine guns, or whatever the heck CN is. I can't read, but it doesn't matter. The point is we're not base riding, and we're also skipping over the rockets, okay? But now we'll have the mechs. Now we'll have smoke as well, which will help. It's going to open up some options going forward for those rocket choppers and for the seekers. So, yeah, everything else from that point is self-explanatory. We come down, get the multi-node Proto 1. We've already talked about the choice there. We're going to pick up SEMO for that, at least initially. And yeah, pick up the GBE. GBE is going to be nice. I recommend putting a little bit more into your GBE with the non-IT approach here, because you're going to want to use GBE to help keep your troops alive. Okay, plus some of the hits we'll be doing later will require it. So you might consider maxing your GBE. Remember, we're not dumping anything into these rocket launchers, so we will have more tokens than the other player, than the IT base rider. So at this point, we're into 4ER. We come out, we hit the old rifleman again, and then we get the trifecta of choices, as it were. Well, whatever, it's a bifurcation, where we can go flare or medkit. We're going to want both, okay? So pick up the flare, of course. Pick up the medkit. It'll let me draw. Well, pick up the medkit. And now, I would say go for the rocket choppers. I'm going to do this, okay? I will go for the rocket choppers. I think early on, if you can get here quickly, you'll have a good time with them. So let's just go ahead and call it. We're gonna go, the insane tech rider path. You got to be a bit insane if you're tech riding anyway, right? So we'll pick up the rocket launcher, the rocket choppers, and of course we've got the smoke, we got the shock, we got our GBE. We're in good shape, and we have our flare. Okay, things are looking good. Things are looking real good. And at this point, now it kind of depends, where do you want to go? Honestly, those boom cannons are certainly nice, but if you want to keep tech riding, because remember, I think the ultimate goal of any tech ride would be to try to get over to our heavy choppers as soon as possible. Okay, this could be wrong, but we're just going to go ahead and call it. Let's just go ahead and get on over to 5ER. All right, we're going to... Oh, you're going to need that troop damage, though. You do need to come down and get troop damage. But we're going to skip heavies. We're going to skip boom cannons. Screw it. We have our eyes on the heavy chopper at this point, okay? So from here, it's basically just trying to take the shortest path, the heavy chopper that makes sense. So now we're in 5ER, we got to pick up Zookas. Now we got two choices, DBD or troop damage. Well, DBD we don't care about because our defenses suck, right? And we've skipped a lot. So it's definitely a no-brainer down to the troop damage. And then we're going to, of course, come over to artillery. At this point, we could probably max it because we've got a lot of tokens saved up because we haven't really spent them on a lot of junk. Max it, or, probably max it. Again, you got to do your math when you get here. This is just kind of thinking off the top of my head. Here we are at Seekers. If you're a good Seeker player and want to use them, there is some good viability here. I doubt that many players will have the shock mines. I think most players are going to have skipped these, okay? Now, yeah, it's a good question for the other path we were talking about. When do you come back for shock mines? Probably when Seekers come out. Okay, there's your answer. So probably when you start seeing a lot of Seekers, you'll want to have those shock mines. But early on, if you get to the Seekers right away, you're not going to see the shock mines. The problem is, though, you're very likely to see 4 shock launchers pretty soon, and that's going to really be tricky with Seekers. So unless you're a very solid Seeker player, I still would probably advise against Seekers this season. I personally, I'm not going to try to play with the Seekers. Okay, I don't think I will, at least. Yeah, so we pick up the Seekers, and then we just get the heck out of Dodge. Now we're in 6ER, and I mean, you know where we're going from here, guys. GBE node number 2, and hallelujah, the holy grail of the heavy chopper. This I see as being a very, very strong path to take for non-IT and for a base ride. I'm sorry, for a tech ride. This is basically what I try to do here. And, I think this video is getting kind of long, so I think I'm just going to actually leave it at these two paths. The other one I was going to talk about was more of a instant training path that would take you into rocket choppers, because, see, the one thing, it's basically a mixture of the two paths, all right? But you kind of want to get there as fast as possible, like with this one. The one thing that stinks is that with attacks like rocket choppers or Seekers, oftentimes you do want to have the ability to reload your boats quite often, and that's where instant training really shines. So if you're doing this as a non-IT player, you just need to be prepared to attack periodically throughout the day and try not to lose a lot of troops, or try to go to your backup attacks. Try to choose which attack makes sense for the base that you're hitting. You know what I mean? Some bases will be easier to rocket chopper than others, but by the time we get to heavy chopper, it's game on, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're gonna have everything we need for heavy choppers. We can do heavy chopper, rocket chopper. We can do all heavy chopper. We'll have 2 nodes of GBE, so we'll be looking great. And I mean, well, I'll let you guys figure out how to end the season. But remember, it's only a 3-week season, so there's a lot of tech. Usually, you can make a lot of mistakes and still finish up in 70R and do just fine. Let's take a quick look at the decks themselves. Whoops, gotta turn that off. So again, shout out to BBTFRG for cobbling this montage together. And yeah, 2ER deck. I mean, we're not going to be in 2ER for very long. Again, there's no flares, so I can definitely see people placing a lot of mines out in front. Just mine the heck out of all this area. Another note, if you guys noticed my last video, we had the chicken and the pig on the beach. It does appear, according to Skull Crusher at least, we've seen some images from him, that you can also place statues, or trophies I should say, on the ramps and warships. This could lead to some interesting options, and plus when the ramps move around, apparently the trophies still stay there. So keep that in mind and have fun with that as you're playing this season. I definitely think that's an unintended feature, but we'll make the most of it while we got it. Now, so basically the point is there's going to be a lot of minefield deaths with 2ER. Now, moving into 3. Here we go. Same idea as 2, but you got a little nook back here. Again, there's no flares, so expect to see some kind of like abnormal pathing that makes troops kind of like go everywhere, right? The meta for this defensively will be aligning your buildings in such a way that it makes troops take the longest path possible. All right. Moving right over. Here we hit 4ER. 4ER is the first deck where we've got the flare available. And we also notice the ramp opens from the front, giving us access to the entire ship. We will be running mechs and bombardiers in both cases, pretty much, both of the paths that we showed at this point. So it's just going to be a matter of kind of fanning them out and then setting up for the Hail Mary at the end, more than likely. Moving right into 5ER. 5ER is wide open. The entire side deck of the ship is open. It says, come and take me. There's not a lot to say about it. It's very accessible, so it's not a defender's deck. Like, I guess the best deck from a defender's point of view is 3ER. 3ER is probably the best one that I see, and it's not great, but you have limited access by the middle ramp. And, you've got this protected nook over here. And again, nobody has flares. So it might behoove you to stay in 3ER for a bit as a base rider. But yeah, everything's wide open this season. So anyway, back to 5ER. It opens from the side. There's all access all day long. You got this little tail here on the right, which might be a little something. But most of your defenses, I think, will just get buried back into this corner because they're furthest away from any point of the ramp. And then we get into 6ER. Now, the 6ER opens up that little tail on the right a bit more, gives us a little bit of a nook, if you will. But again, the entire side of the boat is open, so everything's highly accessible. It's an attacker's game on. There's just nothing to say defensively about these decks at all, in fact. And then last but not least, or maybe least, depending on how you look at it, here is the 70R deck. It is just like wide open, come and drop your troops wherever you want at this point and take me as fast as you can, approach. So there they are. Defensively, there's not a lot to say about these decks. They're basically meant for attackers and attacking. The only other stuff to really talk about in the tree is just to look a little deeper beyond the pathing that we showed and just to look at the multi-node choices. In particular, we've got our first Sky Shield that comes at the end. I believe that's the first one. Yeah, comes at the end of 6ER. So that's going to be huge. It's also a Laser Beam 2 or a Shock Blaster 2. I tend to think everyone's going for Sky Shield on this because, nice Sky Shield, bro. They're really strong in warships. Okay, so this is your Sky Shield node, no doubt about that. Moving forward into 7ER, we have to pick up our third GBE. I guess maybe I don't have everything here on this tree. It looks like I'm missing what comes at the end of 70R because I see these little lines here, and here. Oops. Well, whatever. We'll go with what we got. Proto 4 is a Flotty 3, Hot Pot 2, or Doom Cannon 3. Well, that's definitely your Doom Cannon node. Then they, of course, stick in the lovely Mine node that we hate, but I guess you'll probably have to pick. I can't see the other side of the tree, sorry. I guess you might have to pick that up in order to come down to Proto 5. which is a Damage Amp 3, Doom Cannon 3, or a Flotti 3. You know, I mean, Damage Amp 3 is nice. It's very strong, but the problem is with the way these decks are laid out, with 70R is just wide open, I have a hard time seeing how consolidating all of your defenses around one Damage Amp is a good idea. You're probably going to want to have things spread out, and especially because we got Lasertrons that are out there at this point, having things bunched together is probably not the best idea. So I tend to think that that node does become a Doom Cannon. And sorry for not having the other stuff on the end. Presumably these are some more stat nodes that I'm just not seeing right now. I know overall the stat count for the season is 200 GBE and then 100 of everything else. So that definitely means there is a fourth GBE node out there, and we've got both DVDs. Where's this other BH? There's a building health node out there. Both troop damages we already have. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay. Well, yeah, we don't have to use process of elimination. my screen just didn't scroll over there far enough. So yeah, like I was saying, we got a troop health node out there. There's a building health, and there's the fourth GBE. So yeah, and they don't connect. So you're definitely gonna want to have the building health. In fact, you might not even want to go 70R until you can get the building health. So odds are you're gonna want to stay in 6. Save a whole lot of keys until you can open up the building health before you actually go into 70R, because it's so accessible. I have a hard time seeing why you would want to go 7 anytime before that. Okay, but yeah, there we go. There's the tree. Season 40. Shocking, get shocked, shock-a-doodle-doo, whatever they call it. There it is. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what your plan is, if I missed anything, or you got some other like really cool idea that I didn't cover here. And with that, we'll wrap it up. I hope you have a super fantastic, awesome rest of your day. And remember, like always, be kind to others, because if you're not, you're just being mean, and mean people suck. Take care.